Hey guys, this is Tiffany Mensah, author, speaker, executive director of D.O.V.E.S Network. And I have with me Petrina Turner, who is a financial expert. I'm going to say expert, subject matter, literacy educator on all things finances. And so today we're going to talk about knowing the signs and overcoming financial abuse as it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So, Petrina, were you able to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Tiffany, for having me. I was so excited all week thinking about, our discussion for the Domestic Violence Month. So I'm so excited that we get to talk about financial abuse because it is so needed. But just a little bit about myself. I am a wife, a boy mom. I have three boys ranging from 12, 11, and 8. I currently live in Georgia. I'm originally from Cincinnati, but because I'm a PK, we have lived in a lot of different places. So I've been Cincinnati, Detroit, Virginia, and now I'm in Georgia. And I went to school in North Carolina. But I really started my journey. My background is not financial anything. I'm a math person. My bachelor's degree is in industrial engineering, and after a few years of working in that industry, I realized that this was not for me. I'm a big proponent of, okay, God, I'm making good money, but I cannot do this for the rest of my life. So I really went on a journey. And really, it was a spiritual journey of like, God, what is it that you have called me to do? Like, I know I'm here for a reason. My dad gave me a book by Miles Monroe that was called In Pursuit of Purpose and Power and Purpose of Vision. And I read those two books and I'm like, I know I'm put on earth for a reason. So I got to figure out what those things are. So I started writing down just different things that I was good in, what I felt, God was really calling me to. And I ended up changing careers, going back to school, getting my master's in urban studies, and really kind of found my niche in data research, community research, all these different things. While I was in grad school, I was doing a lot of different contract or consulting work with one of my professors. And one of the biggest things that I was doing was researching different data points for communities, like educational attainment and healthcare, how much money they were making, just different things, schools, all these things for the government, nonprofits, because they were trying to see why certain communities were stuck. So we were just researching and pulling data. And one of the things that I saw was money was basically the culprit or the lack thereof, because if you don't have money, that's going to determine where you live. That will in turn determine the type of education you'll get. If you will go to a post-secondary school or go to some type of apprenticeship training, all those good things. And it's like cyclical. If you don't have this money, you're just in a cycle. Yeah. So I really looked at myself. I was like, I have to get my finances together because I call myself a recovering spendaholic because I love to spend money. But I realized that even though I was really good at, of course, paying bills on time, if there was a dollar left over, I'm like, what can I get for 99 cents? So I really started looking at our finances and trying to read as much as I could about money. My dad had told me about Dave Ramsey, so I started reading about and watching podcasts and just doing a lot of different things. And then I lost my contract with my job, and I had two toddlers at the time, and we had no savings. I weren't prepared financially to live off of one income. So it was about 6 months before I had even be able to get another job. And by then I was swamped in credit card debt because I was trying to rob Peter, pay Paul, pay this using credit cards and all that stuff. So after a few years of working in that job, we were like, okay, we need to not just maintain, we need to get ahead. So we started putting a plan together, started creating a budget, got a better paying job, was able to keep the previous job, was able to get a side hustle. So I was working, having all these things. And we were taking that money and really plowing down on paying off debt. So like within less than 2 years, about 21 months, we were able to pay off $40,000 worth of debt, max out our savings, and really start. And we were able to see like, oh, we can do this. Our goal is, of course, to become financially free, to be able to build wealth, to be able to leave our kids a financial legacy. So that's where we kind of are today. As we were going through that process, I started blogging, and it kind of turned into a business. So here I am now.
Nice. Thank you so much for sharing. That was, as we talked, it was cool to see kind of some shared journeys with being PKs and also hometown roots.
Yes.
And yeah, it's been a vibe. Yes. For sure.
Definitely.
And so with seeing where you educate, even on your platforms, that's the reason why we're here. DOVES Network mission is rooted in healing the trauma exposure to domestic violence through intervention, prevention, and empowerment. And so our conversation today is going to be heavily centered on that and all these three avenues. And so a little bit of, I'm going to put my facts up, a little bit of facts about domestic violence. The first thing is that the statistics show, when you mention stats, I am a data informed individual. Okay. Mm-hmm. Marketing is my background.
Oh,
so cool. It is, the stats tell a story. Right. Mm-hmm. And one of the stats that was pulled out in this research is that 99% of domestic violence relationships have financial abuse in there. So that's an alarming stat. And just for someone who may not understand, is that financial abuse is a behavior that seeks to control a person's ability to acquire, use, or maintain economic resources and threatens their self-sufficiency and financial autonomy. So it's showing that even though there's 99% of 99% of financial abuse that occurs in domestic violence relationships, only 78% of Americans did not recognize financial abuse as a form of domestic violence. So a lot of times that's one of the myths that we really strive hard, not just during Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which is this month in October, is domestic violence isn't just physical. There's all these layers compounded to it. And financial abuse is a heavy one that's also included. So a couple examples of that, excuse me, is when you force a partner is forced to miss work. They are late to work. They're being harassed at work. There's control on how the money is spent. Money is withheld for basic living resources. You give your partner an allowance, stealing money, stealing credit, stealing property, identity from forcing them to file fraudulent legal financial documents or overspend on credit cards. And as you talked about the journey of all the research you did, where hey, not domestic violence, money, all these areas, you have to have money. This is the world we live in. Yeah. And when this area is added to it, it makes it really hard. And a lot of people, I really despise the question of why doesn't she stay? Why does he stay? It's like,
there are a lot of factors that go into it.
Abuse. Mm-hmm. Why does the abuser abuse? Right. One of the areas in why victims may stay as long is because of this financial component. My mom is a survivor of it. And one of the things that I literally saw, the statistic talks to 7 to 8 different times a victim leaves their abuser and returns. My mom was definitely in that cycle. And one of the things that I remember specifically each time we left, and the reason each time we came back, is because of the finances. Mm-hmm. And she was fearful that she could not take care of myself during that time without the things, we were accustomed to, because, my father was heavy in that. So there is an opportunity to be able to protect yourself and able of, like, let's start with prevention, right? Mm-hmm. Can you give some ways, Petrina, on how women, men, and even teens can protect themselves from financial abuse?
Well, first, I think you need to be financially educated, right? And that's something that many of us we did not come from homes where we were financially educated. It's definitely not taught in schools. I'm glad now we're becoming more aware of financial education, but for the most of us, we didn't know anything about finances. So I think the first thing is, even before we even get in relationships and get into, partnerships and being married, is we need to be educated financially and also know about the other person's finances. So how do you become educated financially? Pick up a book. Like, there are so many books on finances and money management. Now I'm grateful that there are so many ways for us to be able to watch and listen to podcasts that educates us on finances. I'm very much a financial educator that's really trying to start with the basics, with just managing your money, creating a money plan, saving, all that good things. And now that I have mastered, of course, that I have been really trying to watch podcasts and read more books so that I can even take it to that next level. So the first thing is financial education. Pick up a book, listen to a podcast, and also get around people who are where you want to be financially, because like people say, birds of a feather flock together. So if you start getting around people who are where you want to be financially, that's one of the things that can help you as far as being financially aware and financially educated. Another thing that I'm very much I guess, and I wasn't even into finances and money and all that kind of stuff when my husband and I were dating, but I remember asking, I need to know what your credit is. And, like when we were planning for our wedding, like, we need to start talking about finances. And what is your belief on finances? How do you spend money? Or how much debt do you have? So those are just some of the conversations that you should have prior to even entering a long-term partnership, a long-term, getting into marriage, so that you will know and have some ideas. Of course, people can hide or lie and all that kind of stuff, but there typically are red flags when you're having these conversations or even dating in terms of money. So yeah.
Yeah, I've been seeing the trend this week with all the red flags.
Red flags.
We've been, red flags has been a common term, but this week It's been expounded on, especially in the social media world. Mm-hmm. And I would definitely say, to your point, a big red flag is if they give pushback. Again, you're in your early phase, mm-hmm. and you're trying to just inquire, it's about, my pastor's wife mentioned during a series they did, dating is about gathering facts, gathering data.
I like that. Yes.
And you are gathering information. So if there's pushback, oh, you don't need to know that, or, you just trying to get in, you see my pockets. And again, if you are dating with the end goal of mind for marriage, mm-hmm. then this shouldn't be a concern. It should be an issue. So if you see that, definitely red flag. Also, what are your thoughts on one party who's overly paying in the beginning, in our culture, it's kind of like, yeah, they cashing out on me, they spending out on me. And for some, it seems like that's very romantic. Yes, there are some areas where that is acceptable, but what is the balance where all of a sudden you like this person pays for everything, and then now you're in a relationship, they continue to do, and now you've become dependent on that, right? And it's like now you're starting to kind of see some of the other side you didn't think of, because what started as this honeymoon. Do you have any? You see where I'm flowing with that one?
Yeah,
do you have any like call outs for that, or some recommendations for that avenue?
Well, I can tell you, for me, I grew up in a household, because I think we were talking previously, where I grew up in a church. My dad's a pastor. I remember having conversations about, domestic violence, and people even in the church or in our neighborhoods who felt like they were stuck in those situations. And one of the things that my dad always taught me was, this is why I'm teaching you to become not, this person that I don't need no man, I can do everything myself, but financially independent, so that you will not have to rely on someone. Mm-hmm. So for us, for example, my husband and I, we were in a long distance relationship when we were dating. So what we did And I know it's different now because we've been married for 16 years. But one of the things that we did is we took turns paying for things, because he had to fly to see me. So when he came to see me, I would pay for wherever activities we were doing. And when I would come to visit him, then he would of course pay for things that we were doing. I was taught not to be reliant on another person. So for me, I don't have girls, but I have nieces. So I am teaching them, like, do not rely on a man. We are teaching you to be very dependent. Not to say that they shouldn't. I still love the whole chivalry and, you're paying for certain things, but I think it is a red flag when they are over the top, especially when you start noticing that it's becoming a problem and it's a, debt issue, or even they're starting to kind of control you. So I think that you need to pay close attention to the reasons why this person may want to always do that. Some people were just taught the man is supposed to pay for everything, but you need to have those conversations. Another thing that you need to do is look at your spouse or your potential spouses, the person that you're dating, family, to see where they come from, how the relationships between the mom and the dad, or if the two are still together, the grandparents, the aunties, uncles, what are they doing with their finances? What do they think about finances? You need to look at the relationship between that, because a lot of people say, I'm just marrying my spouse. No, you are marrying the family. Trust and believe. You are marrying the family. Even if you don't see them, the family is in that person, Yeah. So a lot of times, what you see, or what you see with the family, they have certain characteristics, whether they like it or not, that are in them. So you really need to start checking out how the family and the mom and the dad interact. How do they spend money when it comes to finances, and then even have the conversation about what if we do take it to that next level. How are we going to handle our finances? Even when we have kids, are you expecting me to quit my job so that I can stay home and raise the kids? Like, you need to have those conversations. That's why I think it's so important for you to find a good marriage counselor, not just someone who's just going to be like, I know you two, you guys have been coming to the church for a long time, so we're just going to kind of brush over this. No. We need to dig deep into family backgrounds. We need to dig deep into, our thought processes and how we spend money and how we look at kids and all that good stuff is so important. So one of my biggest things that I'm often telling people is look at the family, because that would tell a whole story in itself.
Yeah, that's good. And I'm going to also add to the marriage counselor part, make sure they're trauma informed as well. And the reason I say that is because the world that we're living in right now, yes, trauma is a big word that's consistently being used right now, but this generation is unlike past generations. And there is a lot of acknowledgement to past traumas, past abuses that has happened in various lineages. And a trauma-informed marriage counselor also is not going to just give you one aspect. They know how to look into various levels and pointed questions. And also, if you're seeing patterns that you are not necessarily, again, that you feel in your spirit, like, something's not right. But if we just go to counseling together it shouldn't just be it's not a quick fix for what you all are dealing with. At some point, there also needs to be a breakout where there's individual counseling as well, because couples counseling isn't able to fix if you have a spending problem, right, or if you have a control problem, or you have a disrespect problem. And like it can give you some tips, but overall the root of it is you. So that's why that extra layer is there. One more, I feel like I just keep going on this one. But it's like, there's some people that's like, they don't need to know my business financially until I say I do.
Red flag. Okay. That's a red flag, because for many people, especially for a lot of women, we are dating to move to that next level. So that if you've been dating for quite some time, even though you don't have a ring on your finger yet, you need to know about their finances, because if there is an issue, why do you need to continue in that relationship? So you need to start asking questions. I don't think you will have to do it on like the first date, of course. But as you are getting to know that person and you've been dating for a few months, then yes, I think bringing up money, and even just something, your view on money, what are your thoughts on money? What are your thoughts on debt? What are your thoughts on, just different things related to money, so that you can kind of get an idea as to, how they deal with money. Because some people, will say right off the bat, because I have this conversation with so many people, like I make good money, so I believe, and I work hard for it, so I'm going to spend and get the things that I want. For me, that's a red flag, So then I need to say, how much debt are you in? Because when we get married, it's our debt, not just your debt, So I think as time progresses, you definitely have to start asking about finances and your thoughts on and their thoughts on money and how they manage your money.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Very good. So okay, now we're kind of moving into like the intervention section, right? Okay. So there is so much, even on my end, that I didn't know. And I'm in these relationships feeling due. This is before my marriage. My husband was not looped into any of these shenanigans that I was doing. I always throw myself on the altar. Because you get into these relationships, again, you see, I'm going to lavish you with gifts and I'm going to do this. And now I'm running my credit up. I'm putting bills in my name because you my boo. Like, oh, God, you need this. Let me put this bill in my name. Oh, your check is short. Oh, I'll cover that. Oh, you want this outfit? Okay, I'll cover that. And I racked up so much. And again, when you outside of mine, but now say you started that, now there's this cycle of, now there's this expectation there. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how to get out of that. What are some ways you recommend that? And I know we say women, but also, men as well. This is all inclusive of anybody who is in a relationship that's being financial abuse. So just want to make sure you throw that out there, because like if you're hearing this, hey, insert yourself here.
Male or female, yeah,
exactly.
Definitely.
And so with that, with the intervention aspect, what are some tips that people can start taking if they find themselves in like I'm already too deep in? This is like my checks are being spent before they even come on payday. And how can they take back their finances? You did a lot of work to resolve debt. What are some things that they can kind of do? It kind of goes into intervention and empowerment.
Yeah. So I think the first thing is, now if they are spending the finances on their money and getting in debt because they are spending the money on the other person or whatever, I think you have to have, of course, a conversation with that person and be like, listen, I want us to be together, but I also want us to have financial success. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is say just that. I'm trying to take back my finances. I'm trying to control my finances. So I'm about to put myself on a spending plan. About to put myself on a spending budget, because I want us to have a lot of great things, nice things in the future. And the way that I'm spending money right now, that's not going to happen. So the first thing I tell people is to make sure that they start, and this is kind of empowerment to like some of the things that you need to start doing. You need to start looking at your finances and knowing exactly where you are. What is your credit score? You can go and get your credit report and get your credit score. I think it's annualcreditreport.com. You get a free credit report every year right now, because we're still in the middle of a pandemic. They're letting you get a free report every week up until April of next year. So you need to know your credit, because credit impacts every single aspect of your life, every aspect of your adult life, whether or not now if you can even get a job or not, because a lot of employers are pulling your credit score. So that's the first thing. You need to start looking at your credit, and you need to look at your expenses, and you need to compare that to your income. So if you see that, okay, this month I spent $5,500 and I'm only bringing in $5,000, that means I'm overspending by $500 every month, right? So you need to take control of your finances. So now you're going to write down all your expenses and you're going to see what you can realistically reduce and or eliminate. So if you're dating, I know we were college students when my husband and I first started dating. So we had to do the cheap stuff. We had to back then just watch a movie at the house and maybe go out to eat or maybe go to the movies, but we cook at home, so we had to do some inexpensive things. So I think we have to be realistic. And it's hard to kind of answer this question because it depends on what people's priorities and goals are. If your priority and goal is to look fabulous but not be fabulous, then of course you're going to keep racking up money. But if you're looking to actually get your finances together and really have financial success, then you're like, listen, I have to look at my expenses and take control of my finances. Now, when I tell people that when they're looking at their expenses, I say be realistic. Because, especially if you're dating, you are going to go out. So you do want to budget some money to go out. But be realistic. If you say, for example, when I was working at my 9 to 5, I was going out to eat for lunch every single day, Monday through Friday, right? But when I started looking at our finances, then I was like, okay, I'm going to cut back. I first started saying, I'm going to cut back. I'm not going out to eat. I'm going to bring my lunch. That worked that lasted like 2 weeks. But what you can do is just start cutting back. Okay, so I'm going to bring my lunch Monday and Tuesday, but go out Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Once I master that, okay, I'll add another day. So Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I'll bring my lunch and I'll go out Thursday and Friday until I start mastering and have discipline. So the biggest thing is money is all about discipline. So once you start having some discipline and see the small wins, and that's when you're even more motivated to continue to have financial success. But the two biggest things is to make sure that you're checking your credit. And I say this even if you're in a relationship where you are being financially abused, where you are being financially abused, you need to still check your credit. Because you don't want your spouse or whomever opening up credit card bills in your name. And here's a big thing. I believe that even if you're married and you are a stay-at-home mom, I believe that you still should have some type of income, right? Some type of something, whether you're selling Mary Kay or you're cooking meals on the weekend. Everybody should have some type of income, because if something happens to the other spouse, if you're in a financially abusive relationship, you need to be able to say, I have some income coming in where I can at least pay for X, Y, and Z. So I definitely think that is something that every person, both parties, need to have some type of income. You can be a stay-at-home mom, but you have some type of side hustle on the side, keeping kids after you get out of school, doing something so that you can have some money coming in. So those are a couple of things. Also, I believe that you should have, my husband and I have a joint checking account, but we also have our own separate accounts, so that we have what we call fund money. After we pay all our bills, we see how much money we have left over, and we divide it by 2. So you get fund money, I get fund money, and I can spend it on whatever I want. I can spend it on Amazon, at Target, wherever, or I can also save it. So I have my own account where I know at the end of the year, I'm going to want to do this, or maybe we're going to want to take a trip. So I'm having my own money in my separate savings account. So that way I still have something saved. My husband knows about it, but this is my money that I can save, and I can do whatever I want in it. So I think we have to, sometimes when we get in relationships, we get so enamored with being in the relationship, and we kind of miss some of the red flags, or even start losing ourselves, So I think it's imperative that we still have some sense of independence, not just, lording over the person that I'm in control, I'm going to tell you what to do, but you need to have some type of independence where you have some income coming in, you have some type of way that you can save some of that income so that if something happens, or if you are in that type of situation, that you are able, you won't be as prone to feel like you have to stay because of finances.
Yeah, those are good. And for those as well that are in, say, financial abusive relationships, even I know there's a lot of instances where you may not be able to have that conversation, right? So you can also contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline. You can also go to the hotline.org. There are some tips. And then one of the things that you would need to do that I remember my mom doing is she went in and went into ninja mode. And I'm always cautious a little bit when I do these interviews because it's like you don't want to give over everything, but it's imperative for those that are listening is that you want to make sure whatever financial information you do have, you keep it safe. So my mom went into stuff mode of saving here and there.
Yeah.
She wasn't able to have a separate account from the joint account. So there was different creative ways she was able to start having those savings and being able to get a build up enough to where she said enough was enough. So some of the things that you want to be able to do, you talked about the credit aspect as well. You can also, if you can, get a freeze on your credit. Make sure you know where hard copies of your legal and financial documents are, like your birth certificate, credit card statements, social security cards, things of that nature. Make sure you know where those are safely. If you are like, I don't see, like it's going to take a lot of work, right? The step one is get educated. What does a life outside of this abuse look like? And again, one of those advocates from the National DV hotline, and we'll be able to help you with that. But start thinking of how you can make a plan about where to go. Who do you have in your circle that the offender doesn't know, right? That you can go to? Is there a shelter? And help and determine a budget that's realistic of costs after you leave. And again, to some that seems just daunting, right? Yeah. Because depending on the amount of debt or the amount of financial control, like writing that out, it is intimidating. So
and can I say one more thing?
Go ahead.
You're talking about that. Because it can be so overwhelming. And like, let's say you do have maybe credit card bills that were put in your name and all, just all other sorts of loans or whatever that was put in your name and you weren't aware of it. When you are trying to create that plan, try to make it simple, where you are, of course, trying to find somewhere safe to be. So you want to make sure that you have enough for, housing or whatever that is. Of course, make sure that you have enough for food because we have to eat. And if you have a rental spot or a place where you can go and be safe, and of course you might have to pay for utilities or something like that, and then transportation. Those are like the 4 basic needs. Anything outside of that, you can call, the credit cards and say, hey, this is my situation. I'm not able to pay you right now. Now, they're still probably going to try to harass you, but, those, that's not a need. Paying a credit card bill is not a need. Having something to eat is a need. So make sure that you're looking at the needs and not getting overwhelmed. We're looking at, this credit card bill is calling me, this personal loan is calling me, the student loan people are calling me. No, we'll take care of that later. Just make sure you are taking care of your needs first, so that you won't, it can be, I'm sure, very overwhelming when you're looking at all this money that I have to save up in order for me to leave. Baby steps. Just take baby steps.
Yeah. And also, if you get an order of protection from your offender, order of protection also, it provides survivors economic relief, such as child support, mortgage and rent assistance, and even temporary possession of property. So that also helps the documentation trail to note when you do have those conversations, hey, this is also available to you. And then within your local state, there is a state territory coalition. So for, say, Arizona Coalition Against Domestic Violence, Michigan. Every state has one. So you're able to even get even more local resources and hotlines that can help you locally with transportation, with if you need Uber gift cards or things of that, if you need utility assistance, especially because of COVID-19, a lot of these state coalitions have grant money that can help you with survivor. It's a survivor fund relief. So you're able to tap into those. I hope you're writing these down. But these are some of the things that are there for you. So I know it's heavy. Again, I watched my mom go through it and through many years. Because I watched my mom, I also knew what was also possible. Right. I saw my mom, who was a homemaker for 30 years, not work, come out and make a life for herself, come out and travel half of the U.S. and become a homeowner, become a car owner, to pay off cars,
That's awesome.
So it is possible.
It's possible.
It is definitely possible. It takes work. And it's one of those, life is hard, but choose your heart, right? Yes. Choose your heart and be safe, because again, being safe as you're exiting these relationships is top of mind. But the heart of staying and risking your life every time as it gets worse and worse, honestly, is not worth it, versus getting strategic and getting plugged into those advocates that know is fighting on the front lines for you every day, and getting these resources that can help you get out and your family get out safely. So that kind of goes. Oh, go ahead.
Quick question. So you talked about your mom was able to stash and save here and save there. Can you give some examples of some of the ways your mom was able to save? Because a lot of women, of course, they've been married for quite some time, and their spouse is controlling them financially, and they probably can't work and can't do that, So what were some of the things that your mom did that helped her kind of save here and save there? And how did she eventually make it out?
Yeah, great question. So she basically, like you said, she started doing like a little bit of a hustle. So she sold. So if you needed an outfit made, or if you need like little alterations here and there, my dad knew about it, but he didn't know about all the profits coming in. So she would take a little bit and save it in a little envelope here and there. And then from there would make different purchases and would get cash back from the purchases.
Gotcha.
So that was one of the biggest ways. And then when she would go out and get like grocery shopping in places where she, it wasn't abnormal for her to go to, where she was allowed to, was able to set up a bank account outside, but then have that addressed to someone trusted where it was going to it, so that she could again continue to build that nest.
That's really good.
And so from there, after she got free, it was going to the police station, getting order of protection. So she started that process, and in starting that process of the order of protection, again, it stopped a lot of the other things, but also was able to start the legal process immediately following start the divorce process immediately following as well. So the documentation trail on top of it. And my mom was actually trusted with the finances.
Okay.
So she was doing the books. My dad would go to work, but she did a lot of the books, but she started learning how creative ways to, okay, I'm gonna take this. These free offers, there's free offers of, with couponing, what you would spend for regular price, what the difference you saving that amount.
That's good. Good.
Yeah.
Really good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's
good. So yeah, if you're in a situation where you're already deep into it, it's going to be hard. That's why I think it's before you even get there, notice the red flags. Like if they're trying to be, controlling, and they're telling you, I don't want you to work, I want you to be at home, but you really want to work, and you really, you need to start seeing those red flags and make sure that, if you can, well, of course, go ahead and get out early as soon as possible. But if you're still, trying to get to the point where you can save up money, then that's really good. You use those skills and a trusted friend, like you said.
Yeah.
And when did she finally, because you said she tried to leave a few times, what made her say, this is it, this is going to be the time that I'm out?
It was, so she left the first time when I was 9, and then it continued until I was 16, back and forth. Mm-hmm. My senior year in high school, February, I was scheduled to graduate in June, and he hit her again in February, and she picked me up from school. Was like, I'm tired of this, can't do this anymore. And mm-hmm. she was trying to hold on for the sake of, me mm-hmm. and all my other siblings, and was like, you about to graduate. I can't do this anymore, because it's either going to be me or him. Because it's to the point that, like, I'm going to start defending myself. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was how she eventually got out. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Safely, thankfully, especially because right now, that's why it's so imperative to know the signs up front, because mm-hmm. once you're into it, it's harder to get out. And so many victims are losing their lives mm-hmm. in this society from, mm-hmm. Trying to get out of these domestic violence relationships. So mm-hmm. we want you to be aware and be educated. And if you are watching and you may know someone who is in a situation like this, be educated too. Like, this is helping you become educated and be aware and help provide resources. A lot of times they may not see it, they may not be receptive to it, but if you have it in your back pocket when they do come to you, mm-hmm. that means the world of a difference. Because again, we just went over how overwhelming it is when you are trying to leave a life where this is being held over you. Mm-hmm. And if you are that educated resource for them and can help stand in the gap to say, hey, here's a budget template, or hey, here's some resources of what I saw, you can check this out for housing, or help them to rebuild and give them that encouragement and support, that's all of the difference. Yeah. Trust me, it means more than you could ever think of. And even for those that, there's been situations where I've been in relationships and it's like, well, he buys you this and he does that. I mean, just stay with him. At least he ain't hitting you. Right. That's not cool, at all, because on the other side of not hit is still emotional abuse, it's still verbal abuse, it's still, spiritual abuse, it's still all these other compounded issues that doesn't justify. Mm-hmm. So no, it's okay. You have options. Okay. Don't listen to those voices. Okay. Right. Don't do it. Yes. Definitely. Because even you said, wanting to look a certain way to society, is your life really worth looking a certain way? Yes. Yeah. Versus being safe. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I completely agree. Like I said, I grew up in the church, so we saw a lot of different things going on, and how even in the church we had a lot of people that would tell the women to stay because divorce is not an option. And I think, and we talked about this prior, before that, a lot of women stay because they feel like that's what they're supposed to do. But I don't believe God wants you to be in a situation where you are getting physically abused, mentally abused, and you're scared to go home. That's not God, Correct. So I think even if you're in a situation like that, you need to be preparing, because we want you to be safe, and of course your kids to be safe, and even because there's going to be certain things that even, and I know we can even talk about that too, that because of the situation that you were in with your family, that kind of trickled into your relationship with even finances with your spouse. Yeah. And of course, we have to, of course, deal with that, as well. So can you even talk about how that definitely goes into a good, our good closing avenue of even the empowerment segment is, even after counseling and doing all the work to get healed and whole. My husband got a very whole wife, there's still ongoing work. Yeah. But our early years, when we talk about this a lot, it was like he is the money guy. He looks at budgeting, he looks at saving. And I was triggered by that because I work full time. You also work full time. And when you was like, I make all of this, so I should be able to buy whatever I want.
Right.
You was like, red flag. I was like,
right.
I was doing that
right.
in our early on in our marriage. Like, why can't I buy what I want? Are you trying to control me? Because I was thinking of my father. Like, no, you're not controlling me like your father. And he's like, I'm not saying you can't get those things.
Right.
He's like linking strategically in a bigger vision. Again, that's kind of the green flags to look for.
Yeah.
He's like, for the betterment of us, let's put a plan together on what can we sacrifice right now for the greater gain later.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was very educated on Dave Ramsey as well, and being able to how use your money in a financially like responsible way, and will allow all for like one of the things when we got married, he's like, what do you eat for lunch? I eat out every day. He was like, I got us. He's like, I got us. I'll make your lunches. Okay. Dinner again. And that's also too, we don't have roles in our marriage, which was very freeing.
Yes.
Because I ate out all the time because I was so busy with work, like cooking and grocery shopping, but that's his strength. He likes to cook, he can cook. So he owns that. And so that it's a team approach. And so that is one of the biggest green flags. And when it comes to even finances, and especially in empowerment, is when you do get on the other side of it. Or if you are dating and you're like, I put him to the curve because I've seen these red flags. But the green flags is, how are you building together? Before we got married, one, we were friends for a couple years beforehand. Didn't even see this even coming. I always say, like, he was like my homie. I didn't see husband on the other side of that. But we never talked about finances. And when we started dating, that's what we went into. And I did those conversations before with dudes like, oh, what's your credit? But it was from, what's your credit? Like, you know, the things that culture say do, like, no, what's your credit? What's your spending habits? Again, and he had questions back. It's a two-way conversation. It's not just one way. It was a two-way conversation. So it's like, what are your credit? What's your credit? Well, what's your debt? Because also, by the way, their debt becomes your debt when you become one. It's not separate. And so my student loans, he acquired my student loans. And we had to talk about plans of, do we want to get, like, he was like, let's do a wedding. I didn't want to do a wedding because as we talked about our financial picture and the plan, I don't feel comfortable spending this amount of money knowing the plans we're trying to do. So let's just get let's go elope. Let's go to the courthouse because we building this over time. I don't want to just do a day. No shade to anybody who's done that. Not at all. That's just what we did for us. Again, he had a bigger picture. And because I saw the vision of what he wanted, it's fine. We can do something for renewing vows 10 years, like later when we are better in a financial place. And a lot of everything we set out to do financially together, we've been able to do that. And we are 6.5 years into our marriage, thankfully. Awesome. So when you get with someone who is a true partner and a teammate, you will see the biggest thing. That the healthiness in the finances. And like you said, their story matters. Their backstory matters. Do you have any more green flags?
Well, I think you took the first one, but it's good because you were able to say that this is what we have. I was going to say the biggest green flag, or what a healthy marriage looks like as far as when it comes to finances, is having and discussing a goal, having a common goal. It's so easy to just get married and I'm doing my finances one way, you're doing your finances one way, and we're getting into a ton of debt and have all this credit card bills. But when you have a goal and you are working together for the greater good, that makes marriage awesome. I mean, I wish we didn't, when we first got married, I wasn't even thinking about like, what's going to be our goal? It was just like, okay, we get married, we pay bills, I wasn't even thinking about what we should do. We had no vision for our finances. So when we finally got a vision for our finances, our marriage got better, but definitely our finances got better. So I think the first thing is you need to have a financial goal together. So now our goal is to build and leave a legacy, right? Yep. So what does that include? Together, how does that, what can you do as partners? And I'm glad you said that you have no roles. You have a partnership. So whoever is good at different things needs to be the one that's doing it. So your husband is better at finances. So he's the one that typically manages the day-to-day. I'm better at finances. I manage the day-to-day, but we both come together for a common good to say, hey, this is how much debt we're supposed to pay off this much. This is how much this month. This is how much savings we're supposed to pay off. Okay, once this happens, this is when we're going to purchase or increase our retirement. Or this is when we're going to purchase the next property, because we're trying to build wealth. So you need to have a plan. A healthy financial marriage is when two people come together, regardless of, their backgrounds. They can come together to create a goal and do as much as they can, as best as they can, to stick to that goals. You're gonna mess up. Yeah. You're going to have, some issues during that whole process, but you are able to get back up and pick up the pieces and continue down that path. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that you have a plan that you're working towards. You don't have any secrets. We're not having any money secrets. This is what a healthy financial marriage is like. No money secrets. You are working together and you're thinking about the future. So if you have, definitely if you have kids, or even if you don't have kids, you need to have things like life insurance. If something happens to me and I make the most money, we need to make sure that you're going to be good, because we just bought a house together, So different things like that. You want to have a plan, of course, to pay down debt and pay off debt. And then, of course, looking towards long-term investing so that you can build a healthy financial life. I believe that God placed this on this earth for us to have a successful life, for us to be able to work together, but also for us to be able to pass down something other than debt to the next generation. Yeah. So that's our goal, is to be able to, because when you look at the Bible, he talks about, especially in the Old Testament, he's always talking about the next. I'm the God of, Abraham. He's always talking about that next generation. So I think it's imperative for us to not just look at like what I can get right now, how this is going to impact me right now. No, we're looking at things generationally. Yeah. So even if you don't have kids, or maybe you want kids in the future, you're setting yourself up now to be able to prepare to leave something to the next. Yeah. So that's what a healthy financial marriage relationship looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
When you work it right, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's unfortunate that so many marriages today do fall apart because of finances, because not putting that foundation in place. Mm-hmm. And I heard the saying that if you don't tell your money where to go, it's gonna tell you where to go.
Yep. That's so true.
And one of the things that my husband says when it comes to our budget is God first, us, then everyone else.
Everyone else. Yep. That's good. That's the plan right there.
Like all the other, we got bills, we got utilities, these things need to be taken care of, but God first, us, then everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's the formula.
Yep. So where can followers find you, get in contact with you? I know you have freebies.
Yes.
So the link will be put up where they can get in contact. But let them know where they can contact you further and join your groups.
So they can find me, of course, on my website. My website is Petrina with an E, Petrina Turner.com. They can also find me on Instagram, which is my favorite social media platform. I'm always on Instagram at Petrina D. Turner. I also have a free financial group where weekly I get in and give some money tips about whether it's about savings, about paying off debt, whatever it is. We get in and we do tips. We have challenges. Actually, we are starting a challenge soon where we're talking about increasing your income and using your gifts, skills, and talents to be able to create additional streams of income. So we have I'm starting a bunch of 8-day challenges, because 8 is a number that means new beginning. So I'm doing 8-day challenges We'll have a credit one coming up soon before the end of the year. We'll have a savings challenge before the end of the year. So if you get into the Becoming Financially Free group, you will see, of course, all the notifications for all those challenges. You can just go to petrinaturner.com/learn with Petrina. That's where you can sign up for the Becoming Financially Free Facebook group. You can also scroll down on that same page and get access to some of the freebies that I have. I have 5 tips to your finances freebie. We have if you have a small business or a side hustle, some of the things that you need, must have in your business freebie. And I also have a marriage and money freebie that just talks about 3 things you need to have in your marriage to eliminate some of that financial strife. So all that is on petrinaturner.com/learn with Petrina. And then I also have an academy where we do master classes once a month. I started it earlier this year, where we just have different people come in and talk about, we had someone come in and talk about life insurance and the different insurances that every family and businesses must have. We had someone talk about investments. I've talked about showing people exactly how to create a budget and create a money plan and pay down debt. We've talked about so many things. This month, we're also going to have an estate attorney come on and talk about estate planning, which is something that we all need that we don't like to talk about. So It's a very good academy. You can go again to petrinaturner.com/learn with Petrina to get more information.
Nice. And you'll see the lower third as well. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom.
Thanks, Tiffany. I enjoyed it.
And knowledge. Definitely hope this will not be the last time.
Yeah, definitely.
We had to circle back and do a part 2.
Yeah.
Or do another collaboration for sure. Thank you so much. Again, you all, it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we just want to educate and help drive action outside of this month as well. So we'll be in touch soon, and you have a great rest of your afternoon. Bye.
Bye.